I call this public meeting of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Opens Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Welcome everyone to our truly summertime meeting. We do have a person that is signed to speak tonight. And before you come, thanks for coming tonight to share your opinion. A few rules of order regarding the public comment portion of the meeting. According to board policy, each speaker has up to 3 minutes to speak. The speaker also may provide a written statement to the board to supplement his or her comments if desired. We'll have the time in front of you on the screen, and also our board vice president will be holding up time cards to show you the time you have remaining. The board may not ask or answer questions or make any comment regarding public comments not associated with posted agenda items. The board may respond with specific factual information, or existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries on a posted agenda item. Please note that to comply with FERPA laws on student privacy, you may not mention the student by name. Additionally, according to board policy, you may not make derogatory comments about any individual staff member, either by name or title. Should you need to file a complaint, please do so through our formal grievance process outlined in board policy. Sorry, stumbled through that a little bit. But we do have a speaker tonight. Larry Scheid is coming to speak with us. Larry, come on up. Welcome.
How you doing? Thanks for listening to me again.
You bet.
Okay, I'm here, I guess, to talk about the coronavirus that's happening here in Tarrant County. Anyway, everybody knows the numbers are going up. Today was 500 something cases. The average is close to 500 the last 14 days. 500 cases a day. That's happening in Tarrant County. We're on the community spread list is very high. Well, what I'm talking for is our elementary students, the small guys that can't get vaccinated. What I'd like you to do is just think about the elementary kids wearing masks in school. I don't want to step on anybody's liberty. You know, I wear this mask to protect my fellow man, woman, and child, because this is for real. This is not fake news. This is for real what's happening. 53,000 people died in Texas. In Vietnam, we had 58,000. Pretty close. They didn't even fight no war. 53,000 Texans died for what? Doesn't make any sense to me. I know it's our country's split in half, unvaccinated, vaccinated. They're putting chips in our arm. Stupidest things I ever heard in my life. You know, it's crazy. But I'm here to protect. We had the 12-year-olds. I seen the Hostie Center. I seen a lot of kids get vaccinated. I was really happy. My 2 grandchildren out of 14 are vaccinated, but I do have 2 that are 6 and 9. And I'd like them to be protected in elementary school. And I think we should wear masks in elementary school, not only to protect the small guys that are not vaccinated, but our teachers that are not vaccinated. You know, because they get sick. If they get sick, what happens? We have no teachers. What happens? School closes down, we go home, 2 weeks at home, and nothing works out. It'll be just the same as last year. So all I'm saying is to protect the little guys. The elementary students, the 12 and above, they had their chance to get vaccinated. Hopefully they do, because we're going to learn the lesson the hard way. But I want you guys to read the numbers from the doctors and the scientists. Austin is not on board. I haven't heard anything from Austin about what's going on in Tarrant County, but it's there. And I want to talk about the policing. I think it's a great thing to have our own police force. I think Fort Worth police should be policing the citizens that are paying the taxes. But with our own police force, we could deal with kids, special training, and I think you got the right man for the job to have our own police force. Plus, you know, he's a good man. He's been there before. He was in charge, and he knows more than we do. But anyway, just listen to the science and the doctors, and just help the elementary kids out. See what happens. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. All right, that brings us to our first report. It's the finance report. To review the budget, Mr. Welch.
Good evening, trustees. Tonight, we're bringing an update regarding the 2021-2022 proposed budget. At our previous meeting in June, we had a board workshop to discuss the assumptions and considerations in preparing the budget. And we have provided that information in the presentation within the board book, and along with the latest budget model that we will be utilizing for our proposed budget postings. As you can see on page 10, you'll see our proposed budget model. And at this point, we've developed a net positive budget in all three funds here, the general fund under the M&O heading, as well as the debt service fund under the INS heading, and the child nutrition fund. If you have any questions regarding that information, I would be glad to answer that. We do have an update on some additional information since we last got together, and that's on our certified values, as we received those from Tarrant Appraisal District at the end of last week. As we've mentioned before, when the state moved to using current year property values in the state funding formula, it changes the distribution of our revenue between state funding and local property taxes, but doesn't have much effect on the total revenue for the year. So it just swaps back and forth on the between local and state, but the overall revenue budget will stay relatively the same. The certified values do impact our tax rate though, and so with the certified values coming in on Friday at $11.85 million, our M&O tax rate will be compressed from $1.0464 to 95.75 cents. And at the same time, we are also seeing our near historic low rates in the bond market. That's going to allow the district to lock in bonds and maximize long-term savings with an INS tax rate of 50 cents. With those adjustments, we'll see an overall tax rate decrease of 3.89 cents to from last year to this year when we look at the total tax rate level. We'll be utilizing these rates to publish our annual notices in preparation to adopt the budget and tax rate in August. And we have an action item later on the agenda to set the date of that meeting for the regular board meeting in August. If there's any questions, happy to entertain those, but again, it's just really kind of a restatement of where we've been over the last month or two.
Thank you, Mr. Welch.
Thank you.
Next is operations report, a construction update, please.
I'd just like to go over a few of these projects and touch on the pictures and notice the weather that we don't think we lost many days on this month. But this is the new administration building. So what you see on the top left is finishing the fire lane, moving to the boardroom. If you were going straight, that's been poured now. And then on the right side, you see the CMU block being laid. So that's the lower floor. Then you have the main, and then you have the upper. So they're putting that. That's where the science labs would be located in that general area. And you see the gentleman on the left working in that little alleyway. That really represents a hallway, but you can kind of see all the structure, the grade beams and everything coming into place. Boswell High School's come a long way since last month, and even from these pictures. So on the top left, you see that the columns are in place, but also probably about 80% of the bleachers, the seats have been laid, the aluminum seats have been laid. All the brick on the press box has been put in place, and the scaffolding in this picture on the right is still there, but it's coming down and cleaned. The front, you see where it's black and waterproof, that is now the brick that's across the front. Bottom bottom left, that is the concourse, so that has been poured. So that's a retaining wall, and above that is a concrete pad, and it's the same level as the concession stand that you see on the south. Still planned for the visitor bleachers to come in August the 2nd, which is Monday, and 4 weeks, they should have them up, maybe with a rain day in there. So 3 weeks on the good side, 4 weeks if we lose a couple days. So as of right now, we're still slated to be ready for the first football game, home football game here. As far as the main athletic area with the training room, dressing rooms and so forth, that'll be turned over probably Saturday is the day that we're looking at. So the kids will be there on the following Monday. So there will be strategic, like it was before, strategic ways to get into the dressing areas. For example, the players, the coaches, because the coaches, the parking typically has been to the south. Since it's not ready, and you can see that where the visitor bleachers are located, it's kind of, that's construction. So they'll park over there typically by the cafeteria for the next 2 weeks, so forth. Then they'll slowly transition to, once this gets finished, some of the coaches will move over there. The kids will come into the Newcomb gym or come into the main body to get to the dressing rooms for the first 2 weeks. But they're going to build a pathway from the parking lot to the auxiliary field so our visitors can get in there. But we've sent maps to the campus, to the athletic departments, so that they can spread this around and show them what we're going to do the next 2 weeks. Then there'll be a map when school starts for that part. Then once the stadium's open, then you still have the part where you'll have the turf room, which is around August the 1st. No, I said October 1st. So about probably 3 different maps in phases, but we'll keep them communicated in kind of different parts of that.
How are they going to get to where they're going to work out? They're coming in Monday, I assume 2 days of workouts are starting?
That's correct. So if the players, they will come in on the Newcomb gym site. They'll come either through the Newcomb gym, work their way back through the basketball, and get into the West Gym area, come down their new hallway. Mm-hmm. That's one way they can do it. Then they can also park over there by the cafeteria, come through the cafeteria. The coaches could come through there, just kind of.
And then from there to the field, though.
They'll walk right onto it.
They're just going to go right onto it?
Right onto it. No fence, no barrier, except just protecting the construction part of it. All that part will be, 80% of that will be in place with the landscaping. There's a part over there by the turf room that won't be quite done, but it'll all be fenced so they'll know where they can go. Just different pictures of kind of what I talked about. That's from the press box, looking down, home of the Pioneers. The bottom right, you can see that's all been poured, so the landscape will go in. So that directly, that one on the right where you see the lift, that's where they'll come out of that door and they'll walk right onto the turf. Lake Country Elementary, so the librarian was able to be there today to put the little sheets of paper where the books go. The books are being delivered tomorrow. There'll be limited office staff showing up this week. And then the majority, the teaching staff will show up on Monday. And that's when the whole building will be let loose, will be this weekend. But landscaping, the majority of that's in. You don't see that right in here. The furniture's in place, been put together, so we're just double checking the furniture. Make sure it's put together. We've got all our furniture. So there's, a few ins and outs, things of COVID related that we found out this week. It's going to be 2 weeks later, but nothing strategically, I think, at this point that, we can't go without school. Just some delays here and there, but the building is going to be delivered. See the gym, right? That's a picture. It doesn't show the backboards, but they're already in. The striping's in. The bleachers hadn't been completed in this picture, so it's been completed. The playground, it's all done. If you remember last month, it was a mud pit, so it's come a long ways on that part, and all the grass is in. And just a little bit of work on Chisholm Trail and Saginaw on the baseball, softball field, kind of getting the moisture conditioning and moving along with that project. So it's going to be tight on a lot of these projects. The ones that probably suffer the most are the ones that where Billy talked about, the summer projects that we're going to begin this year, and hopefully some of them would finish, but they're going to they'll continue into November, December, a lot of those. Just getting supplies on some of that and getting the schedules has been a challenge, but he's going to come back next month and give a report over Elkins, the progress on the walls, the hard ceiling. There's also sidewalks at Elkins, sidewalks at Creekview. At Boswell, you have the second balcony, the chairs, the auditorium chairs that were never replaced. They've been replaced. The orchestra pit's coming in. That was the original one built by the maintenance department, 1980 or whatever. So just a few of those things just to touch up where we're at with those, and also, you know, what's our projected on the other ones that he mentioned. So, any other questions?
Clete, I have a question on the playground at Lake Country, Eagle Mountain Elementary. Is that mulch? Is that mulch that is the
Yes.
area?
Well, it's the engineered wood chips, yes.
Okay, engineered wood chips. Okay. Is that what we're going to do? Are we doing that all going forward on all our playgrounds?
That has been our standard. We have had discussions to change that, but that would have to be, something in a bond that would have to be considered, just the magnitude because of some of the other winners we have. So the wood chips, you know, there's kind of maintenance. You have to do it every year. You have to replenish them. You know, you lose probably 20% of them, and they don't. I mean, they just kind of go everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
In the playground. You know, my preference is if we had a structure like a turf product, it was a little more clean that way.
Right. Okay. I was just curious as to where we're going to go further, because it's also not very accessible for people that are in wheelchairs or, you know.
Right.
And
there are other it's accessible by.
it is
meets the
accessible,
standard, yes.
but yeah,
There
you
are
know what I'm
other-
saying. Okay, I just wondered. Okay. That's all.
Thank you, Clete.
I'll throw one thing in. The turf products that they're coming out with are very good. They also have those like an E-layer, that a track surface, but it's softer than that. But it's a rubbery hard surface that also goes down. So between something like that or the turf, I think would be something that would be good to look at for the future, and then to go back at some juncture and retrofit all the elementaries to make it.
So currently we have retroed them with what that product you were talking about. They have a pathway to their equipment, and it's not mulch. Now, does mulch get on it occasionally? It's going to get around, but there's a hard surface, a ramp and a hard surface to get to their playground.
Yeah. But I'm saying put that, you put that hard surface or a turf product, either one on the whole playground. So either one of
Definitely
those.
less maintenance.
Yeah.
Long run.
So anyway.
Thank you. Next is, we have several human resources report. The first one is a Tasby 117 update. Ms. White. Welcome. Surprised your book isn't bigger that you were bringing up there.
What? What'd you say?
I'm surprised that you weren't bringing up a bigger book.
Well, I just brought what I thought would be minimal if you have some questions.
All right.
Good evening, President Newcomb, members of the board, Dr. Chadwell. In the Tasby Update 117, there were 26 legal policies and then 3 local policies. And I'm going to just give you a little summary about the 3 local policies. CH Local Purchasing and Acquisitions. Because of the major winter storm this year, Tasby recommended wording to this policy that added construction and school equipment to the board, giving delegation to the superintendent to contract for construction or repairs in the event of a catastrophe or emergency up to $250,000. And then costs that exceed that, then a special meeting would be called, or if there's not a quorum, then he would report on it at the next meeting. The other part of CH Local is has to do with competitive bidding and competitive sealed proposals. And wording in this part of the policy is being recommended to change to in accordance with administrative regulations and board adopted rules. And just so that y'all know, in 2012, the board adopted these rules. So what we've done is taken them and put them in administrative regulations so that they are posted and people would be able to view them as they needed to. And I included that in your packet to show the regulations as well. For CV local, it's facilities construction, and Tasby just recommended a cross-reference to CH local for the emergency delegation text, which includes the provisions regarding authority for construction contracts in the event of a catastrophe or emergency. And then DEC is the compensation and benefits, leaves and absences. So the recommendation for this policy includes taking administrative details out of the policy and moving them to administrative regs. So because of the pandemic and schools closing and lots of questions that came from Tasby recommended in this policy moving any administrative details to administrative regulations. So I have also put behind this policy a copy of the administrative regs. So basically everything that was in red that Tasby recommended to be deleted, I have moved over to administrative regulations. So we aren't losing any of those details. We're just moving them because the administrative details would be specific to things that we would need to know about leaves and absences. They did add in the wording, which you would see in blue, a couple of things, including designated the birth or placement of a child of adoption or foster care, that the leave is taken within the first year after the birth or placement as non-discretionary leave. And then also provisions for accumulated leave upon retirement and separation from the district were also wording that was added. This Tasby Update 117 is just a report this time. We're going to bring it back in August for action. Does anybody have any questions about these three policies?
Well, I'm not, do they have a good reason for moving things out of board policy and putting it in regs? Because that means the superintendent could change it, not that ours would, but
Right.
I don't think that's a good change. I don't like it.
So on the DEC, every district is different as far as how they do their leaves and their absences. And so what was in policy was very specific administratively. And so their recommendation was moving it to admin regs so that if something needed to change specifically, then we could do it in a way that before coming to the board if we had to.
Right. That's the part I don't like.
Okay.
But if we elected to leave it as is in
Yes.
policy, they would mark it as such, but that is a possibility that
That's
we could leave
exactly
it
right.
as.
Yes.
Because I know we've done work on CH Local, for example, before. There's been
Right.
a lot of work there, and this is something over the course, and Mr. Newcomb and I were talking before the meeting, that this is something that over the years moved from the force of policy, where people wanted it in policy,
Right.
to say, let's put it on regulation so there's flexibility. But as he said correctly, it also takes some of the authority away from the board and
correct.
places it into my role. So that's something you as a board need to really reflect on if we want to leave it in policy, which for me is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see anything in these three policies that puts me at a disadvantage of leading the district if I have to come to the next board meeting and ask for those requests as we have it currently.
Right.
Frankly, if I needed that flexibility, I would have already requested that
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, we've
before.
given you some.
Yes.
and
Exactly.
Gladly, but
Yes,
just to take it out like this.
sure.
So this is a recommendation coming from our attorney or Tasby?
From Tasby.
From Tasby on.
Any of the Tasby updated policies come from Tasby.
So that would mean that districts all around the state are probably having the same
Yes, sir.
discussion or consideration.
Right.
The one note is that they state that if you go your own direction, that they won't necessarily support it in the same way as if it's a supported Tasby policy. But once again, in these three, I don't necessarily see a lot of issues there in terms of risk of the district to keep that in
To
local.
keep it.
Yeah.
Well, I would just encourage y'all just to read over them. We'll come back next week and
Absolutely.
we'll just call with any questions or just think about what we just talked about. If everybody's, the majority's okay with with going with the recommendation from Tasby and giving up that authority, then, you know, we'll discuss it next time. Is that all right? Okay.
Okay, so the next part is there are some local policy updates that needed some wording change just to be in compliance with legal policies. So there are 5 of those policies. The first one being CB local, which is state and federal revenue sources. And we are recommending the changes to just the gifts and gratuity amounts for legal purposes. Then CVA, local competitive bidding, and CVB, local competitive seal proposals. The recommended changes for this one are based on how we do accept the bids and proposals, which I met with Rob and Lucia about those. So we do, those competitive bids come in sealed envelopes. So we're just trying to get our policy in place with how our practice is. And then DEG is local, and it has to do with retirement. And the reason this.
Let's go back to the,
Okay,
the bids and stuff.
yes.
None of the changes that we're talking about affects our, you know, Rob's, any principals, Cleats Group, anybody using purchasing cooperatives and stuff like that to purchase goods. This has no reflection on that at all, or any, it doesn't cut down the ability for people to use those if they think that's the best interest for the district.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. But just, we're simply making adjustments that fit what we're doing currently. So but we're not going backwards in any ways from that
Okay.
standpoint.
That's all I needed to hear.
Do we ever get pushback about only accepting them hard copy and not electronic? Because this feels, I mean, I know that's what we're doing, but it feels like it's maybe not as progressive as what the industry maybe do.
So the only area that we do not do electronic bids is in the construction, from a construction standpoint, just because of the way that those bids are presented. They're usually, there's a lot of information, and it usually comes in, they assemble those bids last minute right up to the point of the bid opening, as they're getting information from their subs to the last minute. So electronic bidding just doesn't work there as well as everywhere else, but we do electronic bidding in a lot of our other functions, where a lot of our other purchases.
But we're not missing anybody because they'd prefer to submit electronically or anything like that. Because
We haven't had, I'm not aware of any vendors that have had, again, this is strictly related to construction. Haven't had any vendors that I'm aware of express concerns from that standpoint.
Okay. Okay, DEG local is compensation and benefits retirement. This is a policy that does not have a legal policy with it. Tasby does not have a legal policy. So the recommendation is for us to move this into admin regs under the annual operating budget to show that we do have a regulation that within our budget is that we do recognize employees. And then DHE local has to do with searches and alcohol and drug testing. And in this policy, we have added Department of Transportation testing program rules for employees that would have to have a CDL license or for driving district vehicles. And this is, and also we added in about the specific employee categories of people that might be affected by this. And then the last local policy that I have is EIC, which is our class ranking policy. And in this policy, we have updated the wording for our spring 2020, just information about high school kids that would have been affected by grades from the spring of 2020. And then we are also taking out pre-AP because we don't use that in our course guide now, and we're changing it to advanced level 2. And then we also changed the wording on transferred grades because we don't know the names of some courses that come from other districts. So we've made that more of a just about specifics for students that transfer grades in and being eligible for the grades to be in class rank or not. Do you have any questions about that?
No, it looked like that even a person transferring in, same rule, they have to be at the campus for 2 years, 4 semesters. Is that right?
Yes.
When they transfer in.
Did you want to add anything to this?
For that policy?
Uh-huh.
No, that
Okay.
wouldn't go in there.
Okay.
That aspect is in a different policy, and I apologize, I can find that policy for you. I just don't have that on my head right now.
I thought it was EIC local at the top of page 4, talking about Val and Sal.
Okay, and that's not, yes, that has to do, yes. They have to be in school the last 4 semesters for,
At that
as far as
campus.
for valedictorian and salutatorian.
But I believe we have more than just the Val and Sal. So I'll go in and look at it and get back to you.
Okay.
Everything in blue here, is that new?
The blue is new, yes, blue is new.
One thing that just looks a little odd, and I don't know what the previous one was, but the alcohol, so alcohol results between 0.02 and 0.04. So 0.04 would be halfway to legally drunk, right? So you can drive, so if you're caught driving our bus halfway legally drunk, you get suspended for 24 hours. Does anybody know what, was that, anybody know what the new, is that new, or does anybody know what the old one was? That seems, I don't know, I guess that seems a little light to me.
I don't know what the old one is. I did refer, I got this information for this policy from our school attorney with this wording so that we would make sure that we had what we needed to have in it. Any red, the reason it's in there is because we didn't have any specifics in the policy about it.
If you're driving, wouldn't you be fired instead of suspended for 24 hours? I mean, just common sense says that.
Yeah.
So we'll get you information on it. Yes, I mean,
Well, you're not, you're
we're,
not drunk.
Gold
It's not,
star
but
as
yeah,
well.
our policy's probably a
Right.
little more strong than
I mean,
the state policy.
we're stronger than that, and if there's anything like that thing that happens, looks like to me what they did is they tied it to the Department of Transportation rules and guidelines for a commercial driver's license is what they did, which is not necessarily the same standard as us, but our standard is I would say stronger than that. So that may be something we need to come back and reflect in the policy.
I think wouldn't we be setting ourselves up if the policy reads one way and we actually do something more stringent than that? When we want the policy to sync up to our business practice?
If you're drinking and you get fired and they come back and say, well, I was only 0.3.
Well, it
so you
says
can't
for at
fire
It
me.
least-
says I should have only been.
For at least, it says for at least 24 hours, so that's a minimum. In practice, it's more than that. Yeah, so we can do more than that, we can do.
And we have district imposed consequences on page 3 that talk about including a second or in addition to consequences established by federal law, a district employee confirmed to have violated the district's policy pertaining to alcohol or controlled substances, including a second or subsequent positive test result for alcohol 0.02 or greater, but less than 0.4 shall be subject to district imposed discipline as determined by the supervisor and the superintendent. So we have put in other things.
But this is referencing something that's written someplace else. Would it be better just, or it's not written someplace else? a state?
We didn't have it in policy whatsoever.
We don't have it in our policy, but are you referencing legal language that is someplace else? And we run the risk of getting out of sync with that? It seems like you would
We'll
just
review that.
link
looks
it
like-
to just say as referenced in this state policy, if it's already in a state policy, as opposed to us spelling it all out in our policy if you're referencing something else.
Yeah.
The version, it's the DF series, but I don't know. I didn't look
But I
up.
think this is like, yeah, related to CDL license rules, right?
Right.
That would be a
Correct.
federal or a state regulation. It would seem like you had just reference. So at some point, we would know if they make a change, then we're gonna have to update our policy every time. Seems like you just reference.
Right, I understand what you're saying.
We'll review that before we bring it back to y'all.
Yes, yes. These are gonna come back in August as well.
Well, if we're not ready for this.
Yeah, and
then
if
we
we're
can
not
bring
ready,
this up.
then,
We'll
yes.
bring this back when, later than August. if needed.
Okay. Is there any other questions about the local policy update?
One quick one.
Okay,
CVA, CV local A, it says on the bottom here, does that mean CVA? So it's CV local A. Just notice, it says page 38, I guess on the right.
Yes.
Just notice it says construction contract value at or above $100,000. We redline 100,000, we change it to 100,000. What is that?
Oh, on the CV, yes, that was just part of Tasby's what they did in their recommended text. It's not changing. The 100,000 is there. And so that's not changing. It was how Tasby presented it to us, just to show actually only the cross-reference, and the 100,000 isn't changing.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Last
ready
one.
to move on.
Okay, the last one is the 21-22 Student Code of Conduct. There are some changes, there's some additions and changes to the 21-22 Student Code of Conduct, and I'm going to reference those by House and Senate bills. So House Bill 957 removed from state law for criminal penalties for possession of a firearm silencer and added the provisions to the government code. So in the handbook, it is moved from prohibited weapons to a prohibited item. And federal law continues to require expulsion for 1 year of a student who brings a school firearm, including a firearm muffler or silencer. And the definition has also been updated in the glossary of the Code of Conduct under firearms. In the section on sexual assault and campus assignments, House Bill 375 amends the offense of continuous sexual assault, abuse of a young child or children under Penal Code 21.02 to include continuous sexual abuse of a disabled individual, and amends the name of the offense to reflect that change. And then in the glossary, they have made some proposed changes under controlled substances. House Bill 768 amends the Health and Safety Code to create a new penalty group under the Texas Controlled Substance Act, which is designated in the glossary under controlled substances as 1B, which 1B is for fentanyl, which is an opiate used to relieve severe ongoing pain, but it is now in our controlled substances as part of the glossary. They've added that group, 1B, and that's what it designates. And then under the e-cigarette definition, Senate Bill 248 expanded the definition of an e-cigarette in the Health and Safety Code. So here's what the definition currently says. It means an electronic cigarette or any other device that stimulates smoking by using a mechanical heating element, battery, or electronic circuit to deliver nicotine or other substances to the individual inhaling from the device. So here's what they've added. Also, a consumable liquid solution or other material aerosolized or vaporized during the use of electronic cigarette or other devices as described in this provision. The definition goes on to include e-cigarette, e-cigar, or e-pipe under another product name or description, and a component or part or accessory for the device, regardless of whether the component, part, or accessory is sold separately from the device. So they've added in the consumable liquid as well into the e-cigarette definition. And then the last one is Senate Bill 530, which under harassment now expands the offense of harassment under Penal Code 4207 to include publishing repeated electronic communication that are likely to cause emotional distress, abuse, or torment to another person, unless the communications are made in connection with a matter of public concern as defined by law. So those are the things that have changed in the student conduct going forward for this year. And this is going to come back for action tonight so that it's ready, if we're ready for it for school, before school starts.
And all the changes that you just mentioned that are delineated in here are law mandated, so
Yes,
we're
sir.
just really updating to the last.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Questions on that?
Anybody, any questions about that?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Yep. Report 4 under Human Resources Report is a 2021-2022 additional staffing report. Dr. Dawkins.
I can find it.
President Newcomb, members of the board, Dr. Chadwick, I'd like to draw your attention to a report. Excuse me, that's code of conduct. Sorry about that. It's an additional staffing report. I'll just read it. It's pretty short. It's our additional staffing report 3, and we are requesting an additional assistant principal to assist us with accelerated learning opportunities for students who have failed START or EOC state accountability this past year. It's House Bill 4545, and it's a person to assist us with tracking the level of intervention that students would need really across the district. And so in order to address the alignment of the process across the district, we felt like an additional assistant principal position could serve in that role. They could support us at campuses as needed, but also support that process in the district of tracking those interventions. So that's something we've been working with Dr. Parker and her team about, and looking at how do we support a project at this level.
House Bill 4545 requires that any student who failed any portion of the STAR or EOC test is required to take have 30 minutes of intervention per subject area per week.
Per test fail, yeah.
Per test fail. So if I fail, they are allowing us to combine reading and writing. We have to separate those. So out of the 5 tests, a student could have to have about 2 hours. They have to be documented, tracked. We're implementing a tutoring system. We've given the framework to the principals to work this, and then we are asking for this position to not only help at campuses as an AP, but to track and align that system of data collection and as we submit to TEA. It's a lot. It's big.
And in those in a case in which we need an assistant principal at another school in case somebody is out, which with the number of schools we have, that happens every year, then that person could be reassigned to the area of the greatest need. But currently we believe that's Northbrook would have the greatest need for that additional support.
EOC, well, not EOC, but STAR testing support.
That's where they would be housed. Do they have an office there?
Unless we had another need, you know, kind of like we've done with conference, but they would be housed and support start at Northbrook.
They would just be like making a master schedule of the
and tracking the data, keeping the spreadsheets and the amount of work, and ensuring that we have alignment across districts. We're going to have to hire tutors, train tutors, and then, implement the program. So that person would ensure that alignment piece. They would work directly under our MTSS program and in coordination with our C&I department, because we've got the training and the curriculum coming here, the intervention piece under MTSS.
I know it's paid for out of ESSER funds.
Yes, we have the ability to use the ESSER funds for the next 2 years to fund this position, as it's in support of the learning gaps that have been created because of COVID.
Do we know how many students fall in this category district-wide?
I do not have a total number, but it's every student who failed
Right.
even one test.
Yeah,
So
I got that.
it's significant. I will tell you, in 7th grade math alone, we have I just looked it up, I want to say a 56% passing rate. So 46% of our 7th grade math students are going to fall into this. If a student did not participate, if they did not take the test, we can offer a beginning of the year assessment, and then they would not have to go into it. But
I'd like to know, a number.
yes, I can get you
see
a
what
full
it is,
number.
because I can say, this is a massive deal, and I don't know that one person can handle all that. I mean,
This
not
person
if we.
specifically for the data tracking and submission to TEA. That's key, because at the campus, and I'm perfectly willing to support
Yeah,
other
I'm
positions.
just
if
saying
needed.
that's pretty big. I mean,
It is big.
That's gonna be a lot of kids.
Why the title AP? I guess when you said, because like
Well-
testing, improvement coordinator, or something, so they can help?
Well, additional information on this is we do see that this person on a daily basis could assist in that role. And we would like to see an individual in that role moving into a full-time AP position in the future. One thing that happens with any type of funded program like this, once the funding goes away, then the person can go away. And that is, that's not going to attract quality individuals to want to come into a position knowing that it's grant funded essentially and it'll disappear in 2 years. And so this would mean there would be a transition into an assistant principal role in the 3rd year. That would be full-time on a campus. And so that's essentially what it is. And yes. Yes, and we do have an individual in-house. It was a part of our intern program that did a great job. We just didn't happen to have an AP opening for that individual. So it seemed to be a good fit for the availability of a person to go into that role and then the need as well.
So you anticipate this job holding into a more traditional AP role after the ESSER funds go away? Or
Correct.
We won't
Correct.
need this?
Part of the reason for the bill to be passed is because of the impact of COVID on student academic performance, either because academic performance actually dropped or because it was underperformance. People didn't try because it was during COVID or simply didn't take the test. And so we know that we're going to address that. And so it won't be that there won't be kids that won't need support, but it won't be at this level of severity in terms of numbers, as Mr. Doctor was saying, just the sheer volume of it. We feel like we'll get on top of that.
And it's interesting, I will tell you, so summer school, there are some pieces of summer school that can count for the tutoring, and there are other pieces that can't. Right now, at House Bill 4545 requires that it's a 1 tutor to 3 student ratio, unless the parent waives that right, and we can do larger small groups, if that makes sense. But right now, it's 1 to 3. So summer school, if you were in an in-person setting and that number was larger than 1 to 3, your summer school does not count. If you were on the computer, it does count. If you were in a virtual setting, which we had for our 3rd and 4th graders, then it could count. So we've got to go and pull that data. We're still pulling that to see who qualifies, who doesn't. We've got a variety of both during the school day opportunities for tutoring. We've got a program called What I Need, WIN. And so we'll be offering tutoring during that for our elementaries. We're looking at everything from before school, after school, Saturday blitzes, evening blitzes to get the hours in.
So is our plan to do 3 to 1?
We have to offer 3 to 1 unless we get a waiver from the board.
Okay, so I'm going to ask again. Is our plan to do 3 to 1, or are we going to ask for a waiver?
Okay, the only way you can get a waiver, we will be asking for a waiver from parents, yes. But we will also offer the 3-to-1
Okay,
when they don't sign a waiver.
okay. And I would like to know the numbers as well, the total numbers, and I'd like to know it by grade level, just so that we
I can get that for you.
have an
I can
idea
get
of
that
what
for
that
you.
is. I mean, I think that
I'll
would
be
be
glad to.
important for us to look
I've got
at.
percentages, but we're still pulling that data, and then we're looking at the students who are hit multiple times.
Okay,
Because you cannot take them out of core subject area, you can't take
Right.
them from recess, you
Right.
can't take them from direct teach. So there are some opportunities
gonna
when we're in centers that we can use, but it's heavy. It's heavy.
The challenge is multiple, if a child's failed multiple
Right.
exams. If they
Yes,
fail
oh,
one,
yeah.
it's one thing.
But
But when they
multiple,
fail multiple, it gets to the point where you say, actually, how do you fit within the rules
right.
that they've ascribed in to do that?
and there is no opt-out, but if you sat for the test, but you did not participate in that test, that counts as a failure. So you have to go through the tutoring. We treat it like if you don't show up, then it's a truancy issue. So we have very specific guidelines that have been given to us by House Bill 4525.
Then I have another question. Oh, go ahead. No,
No,
I was
go
just, so what are we gonna do? I would imagine some of the kids that would also not participate in the tutoring. What happens if we can't get them to comply? with
They
the tutoring?
are, if we can't, there's truancy, the parent has a right to file a grievance.
No, I mean, if the kid doesn't participate.
If a
If
kid
we have-
doesn't participate, okay, they don't come to the tutoring or they.
We're required to offer it.
We're required to offer it and
provide
for
it.
them to attend. It's mandatory attendance
Okay.
by the state.
And if
We would follow truancy rules. And then if the parent says, no, my child's not, they would have to go through a grievance process to be allowed not to.
still couldn't do, right? Because it's a legal requirement. That's what I'm saying. So they have to have some sort of a remedy for
Right.
what happens when kids don't. No, they're not all
Oh,
gonna come.
well, we would file truancy. We would go through that process. It would be a disciplinary act.
The law wasn't really written, I'll say the law was not written, I don't know if they consulted any actual practitioners when they wrote it.
No,
When
no.
when you read it, you just don't see how that would work in a practical world. So the answer to your question is, obviously she answered it, but the reality is that it would be very hard to force somebody to participate in something they actively say, I'm not going to do. So, but even though they tell you you have to, and it's possible and plausible that they will then collect that data and then keep us accountable for things that are beyond our control in terms of.
Well, that's, is it tied to any funding loss or anything like
Not
that?
funding,
Not right now.
not funding at this time, that's not in the law. My guess it would be some type of accountability, but not in the current accountability system, but something else that they're probably going to create.
I wanted to go on the record, though. Remember, when we took STAR this year, the state TEA said we would not be held accountable.
Right.
But we are. We are. So we will be giving some beginning of year assessments for those who were absent. And if they pass those, then they would be able to move forward. And then for our EOC, once they pass the EOC, they no longer have to be a part of the tutor.
It sounds like we may be getting updates to these numbers
You will.
as these different events occur.
I would really be interested in keeping.
We
it all.
just received, I think I got Thursday, some of the final updates from summer school attendance to see. And so we have to go through it to see which ones will qualify, which ones don't.
The other
Letters
part-
will be going home to parents this week about the requirement.
And then also our new students moving in. We'll
And new
track
students
those. I mean,
moving
we've
in.
got our new kiddos coming that we'll need to add to that number as
I have
school
another
starts.
So the salary that's listed there, I don't remember us always saying including the cost of employee benefits. Maybe we do in that number, but that looks, is that in line with the rest of our APs?
Right, about 15,000 is benefits for a professional position.
Okay.
So,
And I guess the teachers that have to work after school hours will be compensated
Yes.
for their time.
Yes, our regular compensation for extra duty pay for tutoring, a certified person is $30 an hour, a degreed is 20, and a college student other are 10. It's 10.
And this is in our budget?
This is
We're
through
using
ESSER
ESSER.
and
Oh, it's all
required.
ESSER, including the
ESSER.
tutoring.
Yes,
Okay.
20% of ESSER must go to addressing the gaps in learning.
And do we think we'll have enough teachers to volunteer to do this?
We are working, that's the first step. I've given principals directions last week when we were in Inspire of things they need to work on. A, contacting tutors that they had prior to COVID to see if they would be interested in this. And B, working with their teachers to see what do they want, how do they want to handle it, and what do they want to do. And let's offer it to them first before we find other ways. We're also working with programs that we have. We do have tutor.com. We've kind of got that back here to use if needed. We've been very successful with implementation of tutor.com this past spring, and the use of that, that would be acceptable as well. But we want to offer to our people first.
All right,
Any other questions? I did want to make one last comment, just to the timeliness of the tracking of our students in school starting so soon. We would like to bring this back for action at this meeting, for consideration for action.
Yeah, it's in the action item.
It is in the action, so thank you.
Megan, we didn't think we'd get here, but are you gonna be okay? Okay, all right, no problem.
I'm good, I'm good.
Our last report is annual communications report. It's Megan Overman, welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to take a cue from Coach Barker from last month, and I have provided you with a full report in the board packet with all the metrics and pretty screenshots and everything, but we're going to hit just a few highlights this evening. And so thank you for the opportunity to share some of the work that we've done in communications over this last year. An exciting thing this year, obviously, we start with our foundation, which is our Aspire plan. Our mission and our Aspire 2025. And we worked very closely with the Ed Services Department in the development of Aspire 2025 to create alignment between communications and the instructional strategies that were happening and the organizational improvement strategies that were happening through Aspire. So that's why you see communications woven throughout the Aspire plan, because it's been infused, and that's by design and with intention. And so I'm very excited to have that piece, and you're going to see some of that here. So obviously we start with our foundation here, our framework in communication. We focus on the EMS experience. That's kind of what our driver is. And so organizational climate, organizational image, and organizational engagement are key pieces of that. When you blend that with Aspire, it looks like this. We have excellence in academics, personalized opportunities, and organizational improvements in Aspire. And in communications, that translates to celebrating and promoting our world-class educators, our personalized opportunities, and our family culture, which is our brand model of EMS community. So you can see a direct connection there. I'm super excited about that. That alignment is a huge piece. So I'm going to take you to quite possibly the ugliest slides in the presentation. Our nutshell year in review slides here. This is just a bunch of words here on these next two to highlight our digital social communications, our printed communications, COVID-related communications, and the specialty work that was done with that, as well as other projects that come along the way with that. So I'm just going to hit just a few of these highlights here. So first, I'm going to talk about our digital and social communications. Over the year, we created 7 specialty resource web sections. So there you see our COVID Information Center that has our tracking dashboard. That was a new one. We figured out how to do that one. Our Reconnect 2020 Back to School site, our Aspire 2025, our comprehensive counseling guide in collaboration with our counseling team, along with the virtual calming room, which was a really, really creative project to work on with the counseling team. We've also partnered with our HR team on the alumni educators and promoting the EMS to Teach Grow Our Own program. That's listed on there, as well as a little fun with our digital holiday care package that we were able to provide in December. Since we weren't able to have our holiday open house, we still wanted to let our folks know that we were thinking about them. So sent them a little care package with some activities. Social media was also very active over the last year. You'll notice our numbers there on Facebook. We jumped by 5,000 followers. That's huge in 1 year. And so we did a lot of engagement pieces on there, including our profile frames during Public Schools Week, which was our Love My School, I Love EMS ISD, if you wanted to go district level with that. And then we also did our Class of 2021 profile frames to celebrate our graduating class. Twitter, we maintained a good steady presence on Twitter. And then our Instagram, which is primarily where we work with engaging with our students in a social setting, jumped by almost 300 followers. So we do a lot of culture, a lot of fun things on our Instagram page. And you'll see from here, these are some of the top trends, keywords that came across over the last year on our social. And you'll see the connections here. Teachers and staff, that's our world-class educators. Students, and way to go. Those were celebrations of the personalized opportunities and our students' successes that they have within what we offer here. And then, of course, family and home, that speaks to our family culture brand pillar. And of course, that all ties us back to our EMS community. So again, alignment is key in all the work that we're doing, and you're starting to see we're starting to reap the benefits of those foundational works. So from printed communications and other projects, our Ems Proud Magazine, we continue to publish that, and it continues to be an award-winning publication. We had 2 magazines. We do one fall, winter, and then one spring, summer. And you're starting to see people flip through these at waiting rooms. They're sitting in their schools looking at these when they're on campus. They're in our realtors. We give it to our realtors, our model homes. We take it all across the community, and we're super proud of that. It won 2 INSPRA Award of Excellence awards for that, and some state awards. So we're EMS proud of our EMS Proud magazine. And then we also have our legislative priorities. Being a legislative year, we focus on that to try to help promote district initiatives and district priorities with our elected officials. And so work with Dr. Chadwell and some of the others on those pieces. So those are just a couple of highlights. Again, you have a full spread in the presentation, but I just wanted to introduce, put some names to faces there for the team, of our team. So obviously we have Christina Williamson. She is over our web and writing. She was responsible for the creativity behind all of those special resource sections on the website. She also does a lot of the writing and works with some of our media on some promoting some media pitches and positive stories there. Chris Hill, you usually see, she's like this with a camera in front of her face, but she also does graphic arts, and she's out and about all over the community and in our schools gathering footage there. Kristin Barnes, we stole from athletics last year. She actually joined us in the middle of the pandemic when we were in shutdown, and she has really taken to the role. She handles a lot of our compliance pieces, Public Information Act requests, our Peach Jar, e-flyers, Let's Talk. She helps me manage that, works with me on surveys. She also does a lot of writing and graphic design. And then of course, Sheila Irwin, she needs no introduction. We all know she's the glue that holds this whole boat together. So she is fantastic up front and is the great face of the district as people come in, and she supports us in communication with budgetary needs and things like that. We also have an open position currently. Chelsea Westbrook had the opportunity to advance to a director level role in another district, and so while we're excited for her, we were sad for us, but it gives us the opportunity to look for the next person to fill that marketing and engagement role. This is a critical piece. This one serves as our managing editor of our Ems Proud Magazine. So this, from start to finish, the person in this role manages that whole process, gathering information from the entities that we partner with, keeping us on deadline, all of the pieces, selling the ads that go into it, all of the pieces that are there, as well as the design piece of it. So that's a huge piece. This role also works very closely with our realtors, our home builders and our realtors, provides the new resident packets with our partnership with the city of Saginaw. So a key role to maintaining our engagement and our retention strategies that we use here. I included just a list of our department involvement. I just wanted you to see the impact that our staff is having internally and externally. One of the reasons there's such strong alignment between communications and the Aspire is because I had my people in there. They wanted to be a part of it, and so they wanted to learn so that they would understand it, but then also be able to contribute from a communications side. And so active on district committees as well as across the city. And I forgot to add the Saginaw Comprehensive Planning Advisory Committee. I think that's what that stands for. And so I have the honor of serving on that with Ally Surface as well from the district. So, and then last but not least, and a few other brags, I mentioned our Ems Proud award for the external magazine. We actually earned 6 awards of excellence at the national level for various products that we did. And then we have 16 total honors at the state level. We also had the opportunity to have a couple of articles published. So there was one in the winter issue of the TSPR, which is the Texas School Public Relations Association. We had an article published in the winter issue, and then I was able to collaborate with Dr. Chadwell on one just recently for the summer 2021 issue that's out now. And so keeping our name out there and keeping the work focused at home as well as creating awareness abroad, if you will. So we do all of this for this right here. I love these kids. I love this picture. It makes me smile every time. So again, you have the full presentation with all the metrics. I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I was fairly quick.
Fairly quick.
Fairly quick.
Really quick.
Yes.
I just want to say, I love reading these Ems Proud magazines. They're great. Can we get more? Can we have more than 2?
Well, certainly can.
We gotta,
We'll
I guess you
talk-
need to hire somebody first. But yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they're great.
Yes.
Community loves them.
And we're pretty proud of those, and we love that they've really filled a gap in coverage area here. We decided, since the news wasn't going to cover us, that we would do it ourselves. And so that's kind of what that Ems Proud magazine is, and it really is a collaboration with our cities, so that it's not just, oh, the school district's promoting all themselves. Well, yeah, we do it in-house, but we also work with our partners to provide relevant information for our community. So that's the purpose.
And I just want to say congratulations to you and your team. Great award. I mean, lots of information that needed to be distributed this year, especially even more so because of COVID, and all your awards and honors. Y'all, you've done a great job, and I speak for myself and probably the whole board. Proud of all the things that you've accomplished and done. So.
We had over 100
nice.
emails on a COVID-related note that went out across our over the years since last spring, and so you know, we worked really hard to not only provide the public information, but to still keep the brand messaging and the family feeling alive. So thank you very much. I'll share that.
We appreciate all that you and your staff have done, Megan.
Thank you.
This year.
Thank you.
Echo
for the
what Marilyn said. She can only speak for herself,
Yeah.
but
But
we all.
just in case.
Thank you.
All right. Making minutes late. It's 6:07 PM on July 26, 2021. This board will now recess for dinner and then reconvene in a closed meeting pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.071, purpose of private consultation with the board's attorney, 551.072, purpose of deliberating a purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, 551.074 for the purpose of deliberating the appointment, employment, reassignment, duties, or discipline of a public officer or employee. We are conducting the superintendent formative appraisal conference. Those two didn't necessarily go together. 551.074 for the purpose of deliberations regarding the deployment or specific occasions of security. 551.082 considering discipline of a public school child. And 551.0821 to discuss specific and personal identifying information about a student. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District. The board is reconvening the public meeting on July 26, 2021 at 7:13 PM and will now consider the subject set forth in the posted agenda. Thank you, everyone, for being patient with us as we come back out from closed meeting. We do have Dozier Elementary and Principal Ms. Rachel Bradley to do the opening ceremonies. It's going to be virtual, as I understand it. Dr. Chappell, are you
Yes, sir.
introducing them?
Yes, I will.
All right.
We have a few students I'll introduce, and the first is Victoriano Villarreal, second grader. Her parents are Alyssa and Luvine Villarreal. She is a first degree black belt in Taekwondo, Jiu-Jitsu, and also plays football. Next is Chase Sokoza, kindergartner. Parents are Sarah and Kevin Sokoza. Chase plays soccer, baseball, and first tee program participant and a PTA junior league member. Next student is Devin Saunders, a fourth grader. Parents are Jeanette and Anthony Saunders. Devin enjoys musical theater, tumbling, and participating in the volleyball clinics at Eagle Mountain Volleyball Club. She loves music, makeup, and hanging out with her friends. Ethan Bronca, first grader. Parents are Peter and Nicole Bronca. Ethan enjoys soccer, Awanas at his church, and playing all sports. And finally, Will Van Dyne, third grader. Parents are Allie and Mark Van Dyne. Will's favorite things to do are play basketball, tennis, go hiking, play the piano, and making comic books. So we have very involved kids. So we'll turn it over to them for our opening session.
Greetings, I am Rachel Bradley, the principal at Dozier Elementary, and I am here with a few of my friends to welcome you to the July board meeting. So let's kick it off with some introductions.
My name is Will Van Dyne. My name is Victor Villarreal. My name is Chase Sohoza. My name is Ethan Branca. My name is Devin Saunders. Now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Please stand for the moment of silence.
Thank you.
Go Ducks!
Greetings.
All right, thank you, Dozier. With that, kick off to our meeting. We do have some special recognitions tonight, and the first one, I'll call on the Athletic Director, Mr. Brent Barker, to present us a state champion.
Yeah, it's with great excitement and honor that we get to introduce to the board and everyone in here another EMS ISD state champion, as well as another state champion from Saginaw, as well as another gymnast from Ems Proud. But before we do that now, we've got a brief video and of the actual. Here it is.
He was actually a double threat at Saginaw. He was in the drum line all 4 years.
Oh, wow.
At Saginaw, y'all know within how many hours they put in with that. So tons and tons of hours, especially the drum line. Drum line is at everything. How do I know that? Because Logan, I'm a coach. I've got a. That's what you do as a coach. When they're that good at several events, you got to share. So he's actually going to UNT. He's going to be on the in the band at UNT. This is your state champion, Logan J.
We also have, his dad is here with him, Stephen.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Coach Briley. Thank you, Brett. We have other special introductions. We'll call upon first, looks like the Executive Director of Elementary Service, Ms. Lisa Dunn.
Well, good evening, President Newcomb, members of the board, Dr. Chadwell. It is my privilege to introduce yet another new administrator to us this year. We should truly be EMS proud about this one because he is homebred and born for us. So I want to introduce Mr. Dwight Williams as our new assistant principal at Elkins Elementary. Mr. Williams. Dwight went to Wayside Middle School. He's a proud Boswell High School graduate. He went to UNT for his undergraduate and UNT for his Master's of Educational Leadership. He started his career here in Eagle Mountain at Creekview and then went to Saginaw High School where he made a difference in the lives of secondary students, and now he's going to make a difference in the lives of elementary students at Elkins. And we are so delighted to have Dwight. With him are his biggest fans, his wife Tori and his little one Jacoby. He's almost and he is proud of his daddy too, as we are. So welcome, Mr. Williams. We're so glad that you're here with us.
Thank y'all very much. Thank you.
Next, the Executive Director of Secondary Services, Mr. Walter Behringer. Welcome, Walter.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Dr. Chadwell, Board of Trustees, I am elated to recognize and celebrate two hires as well. First of all, Mr. Russell. Mr. Russell, you come join us. Mr. Russell is joining us from Weatherford ISD as an assistant principal. He will serve as an assistant principal at Chisholm Trail High School. He's also a former soccer coach. So we share that in common. He has two children. His wife and his children are traveling back from California right now on vacation. So they were not able to be here, but we are so excited to have him at Chisholm Trail High School and welcome him to EMS ISD.
Welcome.
And then I'm also excited to be able to acknowledge and celebrate one of our other homegrown here at EMS ISD, Ms. Dawn Self-Turpin. Ms. Dawn Self-Turpin is going to join us at Saginaw High School as an assistant principal. One of the great things about her, I learned last week, she taught ASL at Wayside Middle School previously, but she also has on her resume having signed for President George W. Bush. So we are excited to have another EMS grad, and again, she will serve us at Saginaw High School. So welcome.
All right, thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the district. The ones that have been here. Dwight, you've got my granddaughter, so at Elkins, so. Hope she doesn't have to come see you at all. Wouldn't bet on it. All right, we're moving now to the action item portion of the agenda. The first is to conduct a federal program public meeting to discuss ESSER supplemental use of funds plan and return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan. And to lead us in that discussion is going to be Mr. Welch. And at this time, on behalf of Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD, I declare an open meeting to discuss the district's ESSER supplemental use of funds plan and return to in-person instruction and continuity of services. Mr. Welch.
All right. Thank you, President Newcomb. Trustees, public meeting tonight is almost identical to the public meeting for ESSER funds conducted back in June. Since that time, the district has been awarded an estimated additional $4.3 million under the ESSER Supplement program. Program targets about 150 school districts that have additional expenses tied to operating and recovering from learning loss during the COVID-19 pandemic. The funds follow the same guidelines as of ESSER 3 with a few exceptions, including a required set aside of 62.5% of the funds for academic enrichment activities to address learning losses, but they can be used for any of the same categories of expenditures that ESSER 3 provided for as well. We anticipate these funds will address learning loss through instructional supports over the next 2 years. I think Dr. Parker alluded to our tutoring plan for next year, and including the position that y'all heard about in the staffing report as well. These funds will target those needs. As a federal requirement of the public meeting, the district has details regarding the return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan, answering the 2 requested questions, and first being addressing the health and safety of students and staff. And just a reminder that the district's protocols as are provided on the district's website in regards to the return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan. And as you know, the district returned back to the classroom back last year. I believe the actual date was September the 20th. So, or September the 8th of 2020. There it is. So this is just a formality, a piece that we do have to cover. There's also the question of continuity services, and the district will continue to utilize personalized academic support, social and emotional support of students and staff, as well as the acquisition of technology resources to address the continuity of services in regards to that plan. If any stakeholders would like to provide any input into the use of funds or the return to in-person instruction and continuity of services, we have this opportunity tonight, and they may also do so utilizing the Let's Talk link on the district's main webpage. So in summary, the ESSER Supplement Program will provide additional resources to address the district's needs. The district will continue to be strategic in their application, especially considering that the grant funds are non-recurring beyond the 2-year program. And so, again, if there are any questions regarding this or any of the other ESSER program funds, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. And that concludes the presentation.
All right, at this time, we will proceed with the public comment portion of the open meeting. Are there any requests from the audience to speak on the agenda item? Seeing none, with the conclusion of public comments and no further presentation, I declare the public meeting to discuss the district's ESSER supplemental use of funds plan and return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan is closed, and we'll move forward to the next agenda item.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Welch. So we do have a new, it's RIPIX, R-I-P, is that how we're going to say it, RIPIX?
That is how it's being utilized in the state, yes, RIPIX.
RIPIX.
A new one.
Next is an action item to elect a designated delegate and alternate to the 2021 Tasby Delegate Assembly. Each year we participate in that activity. Last year, delegate was William Bowes and alternate was Elizabeth Lopez Hatley. Do I hear a motion to assign the 2021 Tasby Delegate as representative?
I make a motion to keep them the same as last year.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Donna to nominate our delegate as William Bowes and our alternate as Elizabeth Lopez Hatley. Any discussion? Yes?
I think I'm the best representative for the group. Yes, I think that's appropriate.
We don't get volunteers very often, Mr. Bowes. We appreciate it. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0. Next is to set the special meeting for the superintendent appraisal contract. Dr. Chapel.
Yes, sir. The recommendation is to set a special meeting to conduct the superintendent appraisal for Thursday, November 18th, 2021. That corresponds with the same week and day as last year.
So moved. Do you need a time? Do you need a time? or-
Well, I wanted to ask y'all, we've started at 5, and if that's sufficient with you, we can start at 5 or we can push it later, whatever's best for y'all.
I would really like it at 6 in case I'm in Dallas.
My motion is at 6.
6. Motion is to set the special meeting to conduct the superintendent appraisal for Thursday, November 18th at 6 p.m. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Paige, thank you, Marilyn. A second by Marilyn. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none, motion carries 6-0. Next is to consider the approving a resolution to create the EMS ISD Police Department. Mr. Ramirez, welcome.
Good evening, President Newcomb, members of the board, Dr. Chadwell. This resolution, if you recall, we went over basically the agenda at last board meeting, kind of explaining how this really kicks off the very first step of having a police department. It doesn't tie you down in any way. It just basically gives us the permission or your authorization to go to TCOL, the governing body of law enforcement here in the state of Texas, and apply for our licenses. And I'm here to answer any questions if anybody has anything for us on that.
Any questions regarding the resolution?
I guess, so it reads like we're doing it, and what we're really doing is moving forward to authorize. So what happens if we decide not to go that route? I mean,
Well, if we decide not to, we simply don't move forward. It's getting permission from
require a
TCOL.
different resolution or anything like that.
Well, I mean, if it would give the board comfort, we could come up with another resolution to dissolve this one. We do have 2 more meetings in order to go through the next step of the process, which would be a report and action. During that report, we would have budget information, other data that Mr. Ramirez would bring forward for that, and then you'd be able to review it, ask questions. If you'd like further information, we could bring that to you in a subsequent action item the next month. And so I believe right now we're scheduled to come in September.
October.
September with the report
And
to
then
request
October.
permission for moving forward in October.
Exactly. So we'd coming back to you looking what it would really look like a police department as a staffing model, a budget, and actually policies as well.
So Mr. Ramirez is reviewing other district police departments throughout the state and putting those budgets together. And part of the budget, really why we need a little bit more time in order to bring that to you in September, is we're hopeful for the provision of grant funding or other kinds of resources that would be available from other districts as they let go of equipment that they will time out much earlier than we would. I mean, we don't have the demand that they would on cars, for example. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to defray some of the expense to put this in place by some other alternative funds. And so we're hopeful to have some of that information available for September, again, along with the exact format, location, number of officers, staffing plan, et cetera.
I think, Paige, it says it's the first of the 3-step process, so.
I know it says it in that, but the document
The
itself, when you
resolution
read it,
itself.
it makes it look like, it reads like it's, I know what we said here, I just wanted to bring it up again.
And I think that's part of the TCO requirement that basically says it gives us the ability through you to allow us to even file an application.
And one explanation, I don't know if I said last time, so I'll say it now, is it seems out of order, but the reason why is because this takes longer. So we're doing this first. I mean, in a perfect world, we would do the next set of reports and then go out to TCOL, but this takes the longest, so we don't want to delay, because if we're going to implement, we would start that in the spring and go through the hiring process and implementation. So.
Make a recommendation to approve the resolution to create the EMS ISD Police Department as presented.
Motion by Tim and second by Marilyn. The resolution is there in page 159 of the board book. And evidently referring to it is good enough.
Yes, sir.
All right. Motion by Tim, second by Marilyn. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none, motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is to set a public meeting to discuss the 21-22 budget and proposed tax rate. Mr. Rob Welch.
All right, trustees, as I mentioned in the finance report, we have the action item to set the public meeting to discuss the 2021-2022 budget and proposed tax rate, which we are recommending the regular August board meeting on August 23rd, 2021 at 7 p.m. As an update to what you received in the way of preliminary information in your board book, we did receive the certified values at the end of last week and plan on publishing a proposed total tax rate of $1.4575, consisting of a maintenance and operation rate of 95.75 cents and an interest and sinking rate of 50 cents per the budget proposal presented earlier. With the board's approval, we will proceed in generating the proper notices, and if you have any questions, I would gladly answer them at this time.
Just one note before you vote is, of course, the numbers that are in the packet.
We need a motion first, but
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I make a motion to set the date for a public meeting to discuss the budget and proposed tax rate on Monday, August 23rd, 2021 at 7 p.m. and authorize the administration to publish notice with the proposed tax rate as required by law regarding this meeting.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Paige. Now, Dr. Chadwell.
All right. So the information in the packet is dated because this was published on Wednesday. The values came out on Friday, and so we will send you an update with those numbers that he's provided to you, and we'll send out to you tomorrow. So you'll have that information. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Mr. Welch.
Okay. So those the rates that be approved, be published would just be as they're going to be submitted next.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the numbers in the packet were reflective of the values that we had received in June, and so these are the July numbers.
Got it.
And so you may remember in the last meeting, he thought the compression would be as low as the .9520. Oh,
Yes,
9520.
Yeah, and so the compression wasn't quite as low as that.
957.
It's close.
All right, just for clarification, I did hear Paige second it. And did you?
We both said it at the exact same time.
Okay, well, she was closer, so I heard. All right, so the motion is by Tim, second by Paige. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0. Thanks, Rob. I think you're still up as we consider all matters incident and related to the issuance and sale of Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District Unlimited Tax School Building Bonds, Series 2021, including the adoption of an order authorizing the issues of such bonds, establishing parameters therefore, and delegating certain matters to authorized district officials.
I do like to hold the record for the longest agenda item titles each year, as much as I can. So
that RIPIX was coming close. But
RIPIX is up there. And we'll get to see RIPIX every 6 months. So anyway, so we'll get familiar with that one. So this is not uncommon. I mean, not a board item that y'all are unfamiliar with. This is every year lately with our bond program, we bring an issuance. And so last month, the board heard a reported bond capacity and the very favorable bond market conditions. As we continue to fund the bond program, we have a recommendation for a parameters order to allow the issuance of up to $225 million in school building bonds for the Series 2021 issuance. The parameter order includes a maximum all-in true interest rate of 3%, and the final maturity of the bonds shall not exceed August 15th, 2051. The order was provided in your board book, and our plan is to issue bonds in the coming weeks and take delivery of the proceeds before the fiscal year end on August 31st, 2021. If you have any questions, Mr. Josh McLaughlin, the district's financial advisor with BOK, is present, as well as Mr. Paul Braden, who serves with Norton Rose Fulbright, the district's bond counsel.
I make a motion that the Board of Trustees approve all matters incident and related to the issuance and sale of Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District Unlimited Tax School Building Bond Series 2021,
including the adoption of an order authorizing the issuance of such bonds, establishing parameters therefore, and delegating certain matters to authorized district officials.
Second.
Motion by William, second by Marilyn. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Welch. Next is to consider approving the previously discussed 2021-2022 Student Code of Conduct.
I move the board approve the 2021-2022 EMISD Student Code of Conduct as presented. Second.
Motion by Donna, second by Marilyn to approve the Student Code of Conduct as presented. Just heard a report from that earlier. Any questions now? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 6-0. You were trying to jump the gun there. Consider approving the 2021-22 Supplemental Compensation Plan.
I move the board approve the 2021-2022 Supplemental Compensation Plan as presented at the June 21st, 2021 board meeting.
Second.
Motion by Donna, second by Tim. Paige, you have a
I
question?
do have a comment,
Sure.
because it's actually not the same one that's presented at the board meeting. Did you change the rounding on it?
Yes, that's a good point.
So I think you needed different version.
Yes, we did round the numbers to the nearest
As
50
requested.
as requested, and then the additional stipends that maybe were already being paid but weren't included, we gathered everything to create the comprehensive plan.
So it appears the motion would have to say is presented at tonight's.
As presented on July 21st and further supplemented at tonight's meeting.
Hold on, I gotta get this in the right order.
As amended.
Yeah, let's see. Let's do this. Let's vote on this one. That's not the right one. Not telling you how to vote, and then we'll have a new motion. All in favor of approving the plan as presented at the June 21st, 2021 board meeting, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Like sign. Motion fails 6-0. Got that, Becky? We okay? All right. All right. Chair will entertain a different motion.
All right. I move the board approve the 2021-2022 Supplemental Compensation Plan as presented at the June 21st, 2021 board meeting, and amended and supplemented at the meeting on July 26, 2021.
Second.
Motion by Donna, second by Paige. Seeing no questions, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? No or none. Motion carries 6-0. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is consider a contract for the purchase of approximately 15 acres located in the North Point development in Tarrant County, Texas. Mr. Clete Welch.
I move we approve the contract of sale for the purchase of property for a total price of $1,425,000 and to authorize Dr. Chadwell to sign the contract and any other documents associated with the purchase of the property.
I think that is, we had a new at your place, so the chair does not recognize that motion.
Okay. All right, I've got it.
You stop that.
I'll do it again. I move to approve the contract to sell for the purchase of property for a total price of $1,386,050 and to authorize Dr. Chadwell to sign the contract or any other document associated with the purchase of the property. Second.
Motion by Donna, second by Marilyn. Questions on the motion or the contract? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0. Good job, Clete. Oh, good job, Clete.
Thank you.
All right. Designate the method of procurement for elementary number 18. Clete.
Yes, so this will be the first prototype for this elementary design.
So typically we would do a CSP, competitive seal proposal, but one of the things I want us to consider of doing a construction manager at risk, since this is the first one of the grouping, it has it's kind of like the first rendition. So I would like to bring a contractor on immediately with the architect and start working our design together. So that helps flush out any design issues or construction issues. And I think down the road, if we do the second or third, probably could go with the CSP, but this first time when you're kind of negotiating the construction part of it, I feel like that might be the best way to go.
No, okay. I'll wait to see if there's a motion.
I'll move to designate construction manager at risk, CMAR, as the method that provides the best value for elementary number 18.
Second.
Motion by Donna, second by Tim. All right, so you seem to go back and forth on this, so why is, I understand what you're saying, this is kind of a new prototype, but we didn't do this the last prototype we did, so is this something that BOK's recommending on board with, or is it something we came up with?
I would think that I talked to my team about it in that sense, where it's like we did the high school, we did a CSP, but it's one version.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see at that point, the value of bringing somebody in early on that part of it. Whereas this would be one we'll continue on. I thought it in our best interest, because you get a lot of requests for information just on the details, that if we could flush those out, it would help the schedule long term. And then sometimes we use them for more complex designs, such as Boswell, where you have a lot of utilities and things that you have to deal with as you go.
Well, that thing about the best value, so normally those are higher, I mean, right? We don't normally do CSP because they save us a little money.
You can, yes. But any type of detail in there that we have to go back and correct, it'll come out our contingency. So you can fight it at the end as you go along, or you can try to knock it out and not get the what I'd call the COVID bump, which is what we're getting a lot of with materials. They're only cheaper when we start. As we move a little, down the road, there's that uncertainty.
Since this is the first one, and would we, if we had someone working with us from the start, I guess what I'm hearing you say, all of the design issues that may come up, this would ultimately could save us money for all the change orders that might occur in a CSP versus a construction manager at risk might be able to flush those out earlier to save us money in the long run on the first prototype, I guess. Something along those lines.
Right.
Well, if we're having that many problems, I think our architect didn't do a very good job, is what I'd say. I mean, hopefully the architects, this is an elementary school, I mean, pretty basic.
I think, and I've been involved in building Saginaw and Chisholm Trail and some of the schools whenever I was working with the district. And I know that we'd go through, be it whether the gas lines weren't put for the dryers properly and stuff, or just, little things that I could catch myself. That's just, I think all those things are hard to catch, but if you had another eye on the first one, I kind of see where there could be a benefit to the district, would actually, instead of costing more money on the first one, could actually save the district a little money. And then like Cleet said, on the future ones, if we get everything worked out, if there are things to work out, then maybe the CSPs on the next ones. But I mean, I do see where a benefit on that might be, personally.
Any other questions? All right. We have a motion by Donna, second by Tim. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-1. It was a losing battle. I wasn't going to waste y'all's time with that. All right, consider approving the 2021-2022 additional staffing report number 3. Mr. Dawkins. Also, a report we heard earlier tonight.
Yes, this is the position that we spoke of earlier that would support the students who lacked mastery of the STAR or EOC.
So just to recommend we approve the 2021-2022 additional staffing report 3 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Paige, second by Donna. Questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
That concludes that portion of our action items. We'll now move to the routine monthly reports. Any questions on those? Hearing none, we'll go to item 9, review the 2021 board planning calendar. Dr. Chappell.
Yes, sir.
There's also revision. Is that? No, that's announcement. Sorry.
This is on page 267 of your packet. We'll follow up with budget update and property and casualty insurance policies. We also have a summer maintenance update and also the demographic report. At that point, of course, we'll be right there at the beginning of the year, and so we'll have a good idea of how that's matching up, watching our numbers come in. We also have the 2021 State of Texas Assessment of Academic Readiness and EOC. We have new course requests that we've been reviewing. Those will be coming 22-23 for this next year. We also have science update along with the STEM camp update, fine arts report, school safety report. Finally, this is a big month for approval or considerations for budget with the 21-22 public hearing for the budget, the adoption of the 21-22 accelerated instruction budget, the adoption of the 21-22 budget, and the adopt ordinance to set the tax rate. So if you have any questions on any of these items that you see there, I'd be happy to answer those, or if there's any other additional reports you'd like to see.
And if we need to, we can move the Tasby updates and local policy updates out of consent. If you get some questions. Okay.
Absolutely. I know for the one that we discussed earlier, that's quite possible. So if we want to go ahead and just proactively move that into the action, that's certainly.
I think we should.
Okay.
We'll move them real quickly if there's no questions.
Yeah, we're going to move the TASB 117 update and the local policy updates to action.
And of course, if there's any other items you want to consider or discuss on the agenda, be sure to contact Dr. Chappell or myself. Our next is consent agenda for approval.
Will we approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Motion by Paige, second by Donna to approve the consent agenda. Questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0. As far as board president announcements, I will point out that Becky has put in your folder your indications of whether you want to attend the Tasby convention, which is in September at the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center in Dallas. So please indicate your preferences there and turn it to Becky before the end of the night. I'm not the only one that hadn't turned it in, probably. You have them all?
She's not.
Okay, good. Not the only one.
Liz Williams, please.
And I just will point out to the board also, we were invited Wednesday, the 28th at Chisholm Trail High School Cafe for the lunch with the maintenance and custodial staff. Critical part of our district, of course. So I was just pointing that out. That was also in your packet tonight. And then that, Chappell?
Thank you. And it'd be great to have you all there. I always think it's humorous when people you talk to over the summer think that you have the whole summer off. And certainly those individuals that have been making sure our buildings are ready and making sure our buildings are clean would definitely know they've been busy all summer. So that'll be very nice. We also have new hire orientation this next week. If you'd like to attend any of the sessions or opening sessions, or then please let Dr. Parker know. We'd be happy to have you there, especially on that first day. If you would just want to stay for a few minutes in the morning. I think we start at 9.
We start at 9 at Chisholm Trail High School at Fine Arts.
On August the 2nd. So if you want to come there, I'll be speaking at the beginning. So if you leave, I won't be offended. But if you like to be, if they're at the beginning for us to introduce you, that'd be great. That's again, August 2nd, 9 o'clock, Chisholm Trail High School. We also start staff development on the 4th through the 13th. The big day is August 9th. We have convocations for the first time in the district's history that I know of. We'll be having convocations split between the elementary schools and the secondary because of just size. I mean, we've outgrown that space. And so we'll be doing merit convocations and they will both be equally good. So we're looking forward to that. That'll be a fun day. Have a lot of student performance there and it's going to be a good time. Also want to mention we have the Central Admin and Maintenance Back to School Breakfast on 7:30 on August 20th. Once again, if you're able to make that. And Mr. Newcomb mentioned the Tasby convention. We'll start getting all the information together for that and forwarding that to you as we sort of receive it. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
All right. Seeing there's no further business to come before this body, the board chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Chair recognizes Donna. Is there a second?
Second.
William seconds it?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye. Aye, we're done.